You were such a close friend of Princess Diana's. When you see them walking down the aisle, what do you think you're going to feel?
Great joy, because the last time we were in Westminster Abbey, my heart sank when I saw those two boys walking behind the coffin.
So it's been 29 years since Princess Diana passed away.
And I was just so worried, what a trauma for a little chap to walk behind his mum's body. It's just awful. And actually, I tried to stop that happening, to be honest.
But now the People's Princess is making headlines again.
It is hard to find words to express the aching loneliness and rejection I have found them experiencing as they approach the end of their lives.
This time, it isn't because of who she was, but because of something she left behind. Reports now say that Princess Anne's lawyers have confirmed she's the guardian of a private collection that once belonged to Diana.
I think my mother did exactly the right thing. I think it's absolutely extraordinary.
The collection is said to be linked to a secret trust that stayed hidden for more than 25 years. So here's the big question. How could something like this stay hidden for so long? And why is Princess Anne the one looking after it? Keep watching for the answers and hit subscribe so you don't miss huge updates like this in the future. The Lost Collection. Alright, so what started as a normal legal review just a month ago has now turned into one of the most surprising royal stories in years. Reports now say that lawyers for Princess Anne have confirmed she's the guardian of a private collection that once belonged to Diana, Princess of Wales. But still, here's the thing. There are also a lot of questions about this report. Right now, people are trying to figure out two big mysteries. First, public records have always shown that most of Princess Diana's personal belongings were left to her sons, Princes William and Harry. So if that's true, how could another private collection stay hidden for almost 30 years without anyone even knowing it was there? Now here's where it gets interesting. Princess Anne has never even been remotely close to looking after Princess Diana's personal stuff. So if Diana wanted to keep such an important collection safe, why would it end up with Princess Anne instead of her own children or someone much closer to her? Well, the more you look into this story, the more you find out things never revealed before. For one, the reports also say that Diana didn't personally choose Anne. That's not what the lawyers are claiming. Instead, they say Diana created a private trust with clear instructions that the collection should be protected by a senior member of the royal family, who was known for being trustworthy, private, and devoted. Then, 29 years later, in a surprise to almost everyone, the independent trustees, not Diana herself, decided that Princess Anne was the person who best matched those instructions. So, when most people think about Princess Diana's estate, they usually picture her famous dresses, her jewelry, family photos, and the inheritance that went to Princes William and Harry. Public records normally divide her wealth into two main parts. The first was her £17 million divorce settlement from Prince Charles in 1996. The second was about $21 million in personal assets, including her dresses, stocks, cash investments, and other belongings. Those assets were placed in trust for Prince William and Prince Harry, and were meant to be passed on after they turned 25. On paper, that seems to explain everything Diana owned. But here's the thing. According to these reports, there may have been much more. Put simply, her estate and jewelry may have been only a small part of the wealth she actually left behind. Today, no one has spoken publicly about this second private collection, and that's how it stayed for more than 20 years. But these new reports claim that Diana had another private archive, one that was found during the ongoing restoration work at Buckingham Palace. While workers were checking old records and storage rooms, lawyers reportedly came across documents describing a private trust that was created not long after Diana's tragic passing in 1997. That alone raises another big question. Why would documents connected to Diana still be inside Buckingham Palace so many years after she had stepped away from royal life? Yet that's not even the biggest surprise. According to the reports, this collection isn't just filled with expensive items. Instead, it is said to include private journals, handwritten letters, family photographs, children's drawings, charity notes, and keepsakes from Diana's visits around the world. Now, on the legal side, this is the most important part of the report. Princess Anne's lawyers say this should not be seen as a normal inheritance. Instead, they say her role is simply to protect and look after the collection. One palace spokesperson says that Her Royal Highness has accepted the responsibility of keeping these items safe so they can be preserved for history. They say the real value of the collection isn't about money. It's about the story these items tell. As for Princess Anne, she's well known for staying out of the spotlight, so it isn't surprising that she has made no public statement. She has continued carrying out her royal duties while experts study, record, and preserve every item in the collection. Even today, no decision has been made yet about whether the public will ever get to see this collection. For now, historians and archivists are said to be examining every document to make sure everything is properly protected. Whether the collection is one day put on display or kept private, this discovery has brought Princess Diana back into the spotlight once again. Nearly 30 years after her death, she remains one of the most loved members of the royal family. And if these reports are true, the discovery of this second collection opens another chapter in a story that continues to capture people's attention around the world. With that said, let's take a closer look at the events that led to this moment. Diana's known and untold collections. So how did something like this even happen? Well, the answer starts with what Princess Diana actually owned. As we've already talked about, Diana left behind much more than most people believed for many years. And what's really surprising is that even though she had a huge personal collection, she never had access to the official crown jewels. Those belonged to the monarch, not to individual members of the royal family. No matter who marries into the family, the crown jewels remain in the Tower of London. But here's the thing. Diana built her own personal collection over almost 18 years, and it had everything from wedding gifts from foreign royals, jewelry that was loaned to her by the Queen and later returned after her divorce, pieces she bought herself, and family heirlooms that came from the Spencer family. And right at the center of it all was her famous wedding dress. That dress was designed by David and Elizabeth Emanuel. It had a 25-foot train, hand-embroidered lace, and around 10,000 pearls. The sequins alone took an entire team of seamstresses weeks to finish. Alongside the dress were 28 other gowns Diana wore to state dinners, charity events, and royal gatherings around the world. The collection also included diamond tiaras, family photographs, personal letters, home movies, and even the handwritten sheet music for Elton John's Candle in the Wind, the song he performed at her funeral. When everything was counted, the collection had grown to just over 150 separate items. But if you're like most people, you also might be thinking how all this matters. So yeah, Princess Diana might have been much richer than we always thought. But what does that have to do with Princess Anne? Well, the answer is that when you put all of those things together, you're looking at something much more than a box of jewelry or a few old keepsakes. This collection was almost like a small museum filled with pieces of Diana's life. Every item, no matter how simple it looked, had its own story and its own value. Some of the gowns had been worn only once, some at famous events that were seen around the world and were never worn again. That made them one-of-a-kind pieces connected to those moments in history. And that leads us to the part that most headlines have ignored: the will and the reality. When Princess Diana passed away in August 1997, she left behind a will. On paper, everything looked simple. Most of her estate, worth just over £21 million at the time, was meant to be shared between her two sons, Prince William and Prince Harry. That part of the story has always been well known, and no one really argued about it. The money was always meant for her boys. But there was a problem. A will only covers so much. When it came to her personal belongings, like her dresses, jewelry, and letters, Diana did something different. Just one day after signing her official will, she sat down and wrote a second document called a Letter of Wishes. Now you might be wondering, what exactly is a Letter of Wishes? The easiest way to think about it is this. In the United Kingdom, it's a separate note that helps guide the people looking after someone's estate after they pass away. It goes along with a will, but it doesn't have the same legal power. Think of it as a very clear request instead of a legal order. In that letter, Diana asked for 3/4 of her jewelry and personal belongings, known in British law as chattels, to be shared equally between William and Harry. She asked for the remaining quarter to be divided among her 17 godchildren. She also added something very personal. She wrote that she hoped one day her son's future wives would wear her jewelry. All right, so on the surface, that sounds like a clear and simple plan. But here's where things started to change. Legally, though, things weren't that simple. The gap between what Diana wanted and what the law actually required is where this story takes its first unexpected turn. Estate lawyers deal with letters of wishes all the time, and in most families they work just fine. A parent might write down who should receive a favorite ring, a family car, or an old piece of furniture, and the people managing the estate usually follow those wishes because there's no real reason to argue. The problem comes when the items are worth millions of pounds, carry deep emotional value, and the people in charge don't fully agree on when, or even how, those items should be handed over. That's the situation Diana's letter ended up in, whether she intended it or not. Instead of Prince William and Prince Harry receiving their mother's personal collection right away, control of it went to someone else. That person was Diana's brother, Charles Spencer, the 9th Earl Spencer. He moved the collection to Althorpe, the Spencer family estate in Northamptonshire where Diana had grown up. For the next 17 years, the collection stayed there. Visitors could buy tickets to walk through an exhibition honoring the people's princess, see her famous wedding dress displayed behind glass, and visit Diana's grave, which rests on a small island in the middle of the estate's lake. During part of each year, the collection also traveled to museums and exhibition halls across the US and other countries where thousands of people came to see it. To be fair to Earl Spencer, the official story says that every penny raised from those exhibitions went to charity, especially the Diana, Princess of Wales Memorial Fund. By 2011, organizers said the traveling exhibition had raised more than $2 million for good causes. On the surface, that sounds like something Diana would have supported, using her memory to help people even after her passing. But there was one problem with what he did, and it didn't take long before people began asking questions. And these guys were not friendly. All it took was one detail to change this traveling exhibit from what looked like a simple tribute into a PR nightmare. And things would get a whole lot worse. Later reports from British media said that people in the industry believe Diana's traveling exhibit may have brought in close to £25 million over those 17 years. Now that's a much bigger number than the $2 million in charity donations that had been publicly reported. That isn't a small difference. It's a gap big enough to make people stop and ask questions. Yet that scandal was only the beginning. The museum situation became even more complicated when Earl Spencer continued to say that the money raised went to the Diana, Princess of Wales Memorial Fund, and no crime has ever been proven. At the same time, no one has ever released a complete public audit showing exactly where every pound from ticket sales and merchandise went during those 17 years. That's one reason the estimated 25 million figure has never completely gone away, even after all this time. The size of that gap is also why many estate lawyers still point to this case when talking about the importance of careful estate planning. It also didn't help Earl Spencer's public image because he was already a controversial figure in royal circles before this disagreement over the collection even began. Now, if you're a hardcore royal fan, this is one event you might remember. At Diana's funeral in 1997, Earl Spencer gave a speech at Westminster Abbey that people still talk about today. During that speech, he described Diana as belonging to her blood family, the Spencers. At the time, many people saw that as a direct message aimed at the royal family. He also stood before a worldwide audience and promised that he would protect Prince William and Prince Harry and make sure they were raised in a way that honored Diana's wishes. When people later realized that the same brother was also the one keeping Diana's most personal belongings and allowing people to pay to see them for almost 20 years, many royal watchers felt it didn't match that promise. So here is the question: was Earl Spencer really protecting his sister's memory, or was he just building a successful tourist attraction around it? Many people who have followed this story believe the answer may have been a little of both, and that's exactly why the debate has never really gone away until now. Okay, so with that covered, why then did Prince William and Prince Harry have to wait 17 years before getting their own mother's wedding dress back? This is where the story takes its biggest turn. Diana's letter of wishes expected her sons to receive their personal inheritance when they turned 25, which matched the age written into her estate plans for major distributions. But sometime after Diana's death, and with approval from the court, that age was changed from 25 to 30. In legal terms, this is called a variance. It's a formal request asking a court to approve changes to a will or trust after the person who wrote it has passed away. That one decision made a huge difference because the age was raised to 30. Diana's wedding dress, jewelry, letters, and the rest of her personal collection could legally stay out of Princes William and Harry's hands for several more years. Now let's think about this for a second. Prince Harry didn't turn 30 until September 2014. That means it wasn't until that month, 17 years after Diana's death, that the collection was finally returned from Althorp. By then, Prince William was already 32 years old. He was already married to Kate Middleton. He was already a father. All of those milestones happened before he finally received his own mother's wedding dress. And believe it or not, Diana's case isn't the only one like this. Whitney Houston's estate faced years of disagreements over who should manage her assets and what she truly wanted. History shows that this kind of situation is nothing new. Michael Jackson's estate also went through years of legal battles over his will and the people trusted to manage his fortune and public image. Prince's estate became another famous example after he passed away without leaving a will, leading to a legal fight that lasted 6 years before everything was settled. While Diana's case is different in many ways, the pattern is very familiar. It shows up again and again when famous people pass away. A personal wish, no matter how heartfelt, is not the same as a legally binding instruction. And that gap is often where family disagreements begin. Now here's the question that still remains. Was raising the age from 25 to 30 simply meant to protect William and Harry from receiving priceless family treasures before they were old enough to care for them? That's one possible explanation, and it's entirely possible that Diana's mother and sister supported the change with only good intentions. But on the other hand, the change also allowed the exhibition at Althorp to continue for several more years, bringing in visitors and generating more revenue. Even today, no one involved has fully explained on the record exactly why that change was requested or who pushed the hardest for it. Finally, by September 2014, the collection finally changed hands. Prince William and Prince Harry received the wedding dress, the gowns, the jewelry, the letters, and everything else that had spent 17 years traveling around the world. Reports at the time estimated that each brother received assets worth more than £10 million after interest and taxes were included, although that figure covered more than just the physical collection on its own. Neither William nor Harry has ever spoken in detail about what it felt like to finally receive their mother's most personal belongings after turning 30. Now here's the part that many people can understand. Both brothers have spoken many times about how much they still miss their mother, how they wish she could have met their children, and how difficult it has been to watch her memory become such a public story. It's easy to imagine that finally receiving her wedding dress and personal belongings brought both relief and sadness at the same time. Still though, part of Diana's original letter did eventually come true. She had written that she hoped her sons' future wives would one day wear her jewelry. Since then, Kate Middleton has worn several pieces that once belonged to Diana. including the famous engagement ring that Prince William used when he proposed. In that very public way, Diana's wish was finally fulfilled, even if it took much longer, and became far more legally complicated than she probably ever expected when she wrote that letter. Over the years, parts of the collection have appeared from time to time. Diana's wedding dress was placed on display at Kensington Palace in 2021 as part of a royal fashion exhibition, giving the public a chance to see it again after many years. Other items, including Diana's Cartier Tank Française watch, have also appeared in royal news reports, sometimes linked to Prince Harry or Meghan in recent years. But here's the thing, most of the collection remains private, with the two people Diana always wanted to have it, her sons. Just as importantly, it is no longer being used to sell tickets or draw paying crowds. So that's really the ending most headlines don't talk about. There was no dramatic court ruling, no press conference, and no lawyers standing outside a courthouse making big announcements. Diana's collection simply found its way back to Prince William and Prince Harry, 17 years later than many people expected, and with very little public attention compared to the years it spent traveling the world. Now that we've gone through the official history, it's finally time to look at where Princess Anne's role actually fits into all of this. Princess Anne and the confirmed collection. After looking at everything we've covered so far, the report says that in the final weeks before her tragic passing in August 1997, Princess Diana became more and more concerned about how history would remember her. People who were close to her would later say she understood that her personal letters, handwritten notes, photographs, and charity papers told a much bigger story than the public had ever seen. They showed not only the work she did, but also the private struggles that came with living under constant public attention. Instead of letting those items become the focus of future headlines, this report says she placed them into a private historical trust created for one purpose: to keep them safe. This trust was not meant to hold Diana's estate or her money. Its only job was to protect a small collection of personal records until enough time had passed for people to see them as part of history instead of gossip. The trustees were also given one final instruction. When the right time came, they were to choose a guardian who was known for duty, discretion, and a lifetime of public service. For the next 29 years, the trust is said to have remained known only to a small group of legal advisors, while the collection stayed sealed and out of public view. As the original trustees gradually passed away and the trust reached the date set out in its private terms, a new group of trustees carefully reviewed Diana's wishes. After months of discussion, they decided that Princess Anne was the person who best matched the qualities described in the trust. Across the United Kingdom, Princess Anne has long been known for her quiet approach to royal life, her strong sense of duty, and her years of public service. And that's the important part. According to this account, Princess Anne did not receive Diana's private collection as an inheritance. Instead, she was chosen to act as its guardian, with the job of protecting and preserving it for future generations. What do you think? Was Princess Diana right to make it possible for Princess Anne to become the guardian of this collection? Or do you think someone else should have been chosen instead? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the latest royal news and the biggest stories happening behind palace doors. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out the next video for more stories like this. Until next time, take care.